Good evening, everybody. I hope that everyone is well tonight on this beautiful Thursday. We are here for our latest edition of Sidebar Sessions, and we have a very, very special session for you tonight. Tonight's topic is Crown and Glory on a conversation on fatherhood. So I'm going to give it a second for people to hop on and do a little sharing in the background. How are you, Mom?
Doing good, doing good. I can't complain. If I did, I couldn't do anything about it. So it's a good day. It's a good day in the land of the living.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing, Uncle Joy?
I am as well can be. I have no complaints. And if I did, I'm going to keep them to myself.
Because it ain't nobody's business, right?
Nobody wants to hear
that. How are you doing over there, Casper?
Oh, brownie points. Brownie points. Huh? Yeah, you're not smart. Good answer. Good answer.
That's the only thing about Family Feud. They clap whether it's a good answer or not.
Right.
They're probably coached to do that. Good answer. Good answer. And you know that answer is not on the board. Wrong answer.
I'm going to say pork and beans.
Good answer.
July, good answer. Good answer.
Good answer. Good answer.
Y'all don't understand the game.
You do not understand.
Not at all. Not at all. So for anyone who has just joined, just letting everybody know, tonight's topic for Sidebar Sessions is Crown and Glory, a conversation on fatherhood. So I want to welcome everyone once again for joining us tonight. And I just want to welcome everyone tonight. So we'll go ahead and get started. This is our fourth edition of Sidebar Sessions. We're going to continue doing this as long as you all will have us. So thank you for attending this session and the ones prior. We really, really appreciate your support. If you have not already, please follow us on Facebook at Sweet Tea Gems for all the latest updates on our goings on, for the replays of Sidebar Sessions, as well as Gems of the Week, where we're keeping you pumped up between these sessions. Also, you can find us on YouTube. So if you have anyone that you'd like to share this with that is not on Facebook, you can catch the replays after the sessions on YouTube. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Sweet Tea. Mom, it's on you.
Hello, everyone. Glad you are here. We are just pleased as tea, not pleased as punch, but pleased as tea that you are here to partake in this discussion. And I have the honor of introducing our illustrious panel, starting with my wonderful son-in-law, Casper Corey. He is the senior pastor of the Preceding Word Fellowship in Smyrna, Tennessee. He also has an awesome training tool, preachandplay.com, for media, music, and ministry training. So please check that out when you get a chance, preachandplay.com. Then we have my brother, my baby brother, Jeff Taylor from Jackson, Mississippi. He is the media director of the Jackson Revival Center Church in Jackson, Mississippi. And I want to say, of course, because we're talking about fatherhood, Casper is the father of a wonderful 13-year-old daughter, and Jeff is the father of a wonderful 17-year-old daughter. So with that, let's jump on into the discussion. Shafron.
Okay. So now that we know our panelists a little bit better, I want to toss this first to Uncle Jay. Describe the moment you saw your child for the first time.
I remember it well. I was in the operating room, and it was one of those last pushes, and had my scrubs on and everything. And the first thing I saw was all of this black, shiny hair. And I probably looked like this. And then I peeked out the door, and family that was out there, I was like, she's coming. She's good. But I just remember this head full of black hair. And maybe about 3 pushes later, she was out and cut the umbilical cord, and it was an amazing experience. It was, and because she's my only one, that's a singular experience that probably won't be compared. Nothing else will compare with it. So it was pretty fun.
Casper, what about you?
Oh.
Okay. While we're on you, Casper, I know that you kind of have a testimony associated with that, and you kind of told a little bit about it right there. But what did it mean to you concerning what you thought about your life?
Let me ask Jeff something. Kind of on that, a lot of times you hear men say, I don't know if I'm ready, or I was scared, or what have you. Do you feel you were ready to be a father, or were you or is there a such thing as being ready? Is it kind of just,
I was about to say that was a little bit of a trick question, because I don't think having done it for 17 years, I don't think you can ever be ready. It's the same thing for marriage, same thing for any major step in your life. I don't think there exists a ready. I think there exists a willingness and a decision to do the best that you can. When you can rectify with yourself that, okay, I am ready to commit to this, or I'm ready to give this my all, that's the ready. But because every child is different, every circumstance surrounding the child is different, every parental relationship is different, there's a different set of preparations. There's a different set of expectations. There's a different set of things that go along with each and every child. So whereas you might be, quote unquote, ready for one, you might not be ready for the other. In my case, I felt like we had given enough time. I was 29, I believe, and Andrea was 26. And we had been married for 3 years prior to having Alyssa. So I felt like at the time, and I still feel like in hindsight, that was a good waiting period to not go into marriage and time to go into marriage, having a child. But yeah, I mean, I was as ready as I could be. I don't remember any great anxiety about that. I was looking forward to it.
Great.
Before we go on, I want to thank everyone who has continued to join as we've started talking. You guys, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to comment and give us your thoughts as we're talking. We'll have Q&A toward the end, but we want to hear from you too. Okay.
Right.
So in that vein, Uncle Jay, what do you think so far has been your greatest joy and your greatest challenge in being a father?
The greatest joy probably has been just seeing her become the person that she is. It is amazing to me to know that this person is a combination between the father and the mother, between me and her mother. And that regardless of our mistakes, regardless of our blunders, mixtures of successes and failures, it still produced something as wonderful as she is. And then it makes me very joyful about the grace that God has on all of our lives, because that's primarily who created her. That's primarily who made her into the person she is today, and put those fundamental things in her. And we were just being used in the process. So just watching that unfold, and hearing bits of myself in her, hearing bits of her mom in her just surface in language and mannerisms and humor and all of that. It's a wonderful thing. And nobody outside of my immediate family has the same humor that she has. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to share humor, to lock in, same stuff. Y'all all know what I'm talking about. The greatest challenge probably has been dealing with, it's more of an internal challenge, dealing with that struggle of feeling adequate, because you're always trying to get it right. You're always trying to be a provider. You're always trying to be a good source of guidance. You're trying to be have the right answers. You're trying as a single father to navigate the female issues that you don't have a personal connection to, and to identify with the wants and desires and needs of this young lady that really you don't care about as a man, but you have to care about. We've had discussions about that very recently, about where a woman or a mother might zone into that very quickly and say she needs this, or let's go and do this. Whereas me, I have to either be told, or I have to have learned through trial and error. Okay, I need to make it a point to think about these things. So that's always and often a struggle inside is, am I doing the right thing? You know, and particularly in these last years,
Right.
where I've become more and more of an advisor. You know, not telling you to do X, Y, and Z, but what do you think about it? You know, well, here are the pros and cons. Here are the, you know, so this is how I would walk through this situation. But you can take those suggestions or whatever and make your own determination. You always wonder if you're doing right. So, you know, I got 17 years of letting me know, okay, you did something right. Now we just look forward, and I might look back another 17 years, hopefully, and say, okay, you kept doing some stuff right.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've always said parenting is one thing, doesn't come with a handbook, you know, other than the Bible. And you still, like you're saying, you know, every child is different, every parental relationship is different. And so you just, you pray and you get, you know, you do the best you can. Casper, same question to you, your greatest joys and your greatest challenges. The greatest challenge in fatherhood so far.
I can.
I can.
Let me try it like this. Alrighty, I'm gonna do this for social media. I had a backup plan. Hopefully my voice and my face will be together. But the greatest challenge for me is because my daughter was not even 1 year old or barely over 1 year old when her mother and I divorced. The greatest challenge for me has been influence. I believe one of the strongest things we can have in life is influence. When you look at you know, the news media, when you look at rappers, the music, when you look at the effects of alcohol, the effects of drugs, everything influences our behavior. And as a father, the distance, the amount of time that we spend directly affects the amount of influence I have over my daughter. And so, you know, keeping a voice of influence willingly where she looks for that and fighting for that influence and hanging on to my ability to shape and mold the direction, the security, the safety of my daughter, that has been extremely hard for me with career, with separation, just, you know, that is the greatest challenge. There are many challenges, but for me, that's the greatest.
Uncle Jay, I know that there at some juncture of your life, you guys shared some similarity. What is your experience with that?
With I guess I've had both sides as far as what Casper was saying. I've had the sides of the separation with the divorce and a period where I couldn't see her as nearly as much as I wanted to. That was in the early days. That was extremely hard. It was extremely frightening. When we first separated, that's when the separation with me and Alyssa began, is when me and her mom got separated. And that went on for a period of 2 years before we ended up getting a divorce. And so at first it was a mixture of fright and anger, just working through all the emotions, because I had always had the intent of being an active, involved father, being there for my child in every way. And when that was threatened and I had no control over that, that was a real reckoning between me and God of getting to a different level of trust in Him with her. And that was a process. I mean, that was not an overnight thing. That was a process. And then it got to a point where there wasn't as much animosity between me and her mom. And the frequency, well, let me back up. There was more frequency of seeing Alyssa than there was less. And then there was much more. So I understand, that influence and not knowing who all is around her and not knowing, what's going in her ear, not knowing that. And so that was just a giving over to God, because there was absolutely nothing that I could do about that. I couldn't fight, fuss, do all of that stuff, because it wouldn't have benefited anybody. And because that's not my personality, every time I did act in that way, it injured me more than anything else, because I'm acting outside of myself. And so settling into that, then coming to a place, I guess I'll speed way ahead, where she's older, and we're still trading time, but it's more relaxed to where I could pick her up whenever we do things. It really was impressed upon me to make the time count, because you don't know how much that time means until the time is taken away from you. And that was, real realization in being as present. Now, I know I'm still not as present as I could be. I don't think I ever will be. But being more present and in the moment, when I have time with her, when she wants to talk, or when she wants, just being there and not somewhere else. Because I'm a workaholic. And back then, I was probably even worse than I am now. And so I felt very guilty about that when that was taken away from me. Fast forward to now, on the other side of the spectrum, where her mom passed, and for those who will watch this or are watching this, her mom passed in 2018, unexpectedly. And so I became full-time parent of a then
15-year-old.
15-year-old, thank you, Teresa. 15-year-old daughter. And so while dealing with the grief of the passing, dealing with my daughter's grief, figuring out the situation, I was in a 1-bedroom apartment at the time, navigating schooling, navigating her desires and all of that, was best for her. It was a lot. It was a lot. And if it had not been for God, if it had not been for family, if it had not been for good church support, I just don't know. I don't know. But it was a rapid learning process. Fortunately, throughout all of that, we had developed a good relationship, me and Alyssa. And that meant a lot. That counted for so much during these times. We've had since some discussions and some times of reckoning or whatever, but those have been few and far between. And it's really been a wonderful experience. I think I posted her birthday before last that she was my beauty for ashes. And I really meant that, because out of all of the tragedy, out of all of the grief, out of all of the hardship, here comes the beauty out of those ashes, born out of those ashes. And it's countless things that I could talk about that came as a result of that. Not saying that I would ever wish that to happen, but God knows how to do things.
Yes.
And God knows how to establish us. And sometimes we don't understand the ways, the means, or the methods, but the outcome is very much undeniably God.
Yes.
So I'm grateful from that standpoint.
Let me ask something, right? Of course, I know, you all's relationship, pretty good. And it is really, really great. How do you think, how did you get there, or what do you attribute to you all's closeness?
I was very much like, you're familiar with how Mom raised us.
Yes.
And how Mom raised us versus Dad, very different.
We're going to get there, so keep your thoughts on Dad.
Okay. Mom would ask us, would you do something? She very rarely said, do thus and such. She'd ask, would you do something, please, thank you, all of those things that are very much ingrained in me. And so in my dealings with Alyssa, although there are fatherly times, all the times are fatherly, there was a lot of conversational things. We just talked. We talked a lot about any and everything from when she was little. We spent time going places and just talked. And as she got older, we talked. We have parking lot sessions. They're always spontaneous, but we'll come home and sit in the garage in the parking lot, and she'll start talking, and we'll literally be in there 3-4 hours just talking. Wow. And that's not a new thing or an unusual thing. Sometimes, honestly, I'm like, oh God, here we go. But it's always fruitful. It's always an opportunity for me to hear her heart, for her to ask questions. That's the other thing, which I think has been very important. I try as much as possible, maybe even to my detriment, but I try as much as possible to be an open book to her. So no questions are really off the table. She can ask me pretty much anything, and I'm going to try my best to give her an open and honest answer about that, even if it doesn't put me in the most flattering of lights. And there was one time when I made it a point a long time ago never to put her mom in any unflattering light, because that doesn't benefit anybody. But at the same time, when she's asking me questions about our lives on both sides, I still had to be honest. And that was one time I really questioned whether I made the right call, because it sent her to a place emotionally, and this was after she had passed, because there were some things that she didn't know. And it really, it hurt my heart when she went in the room and had a time by herself, and there was nothing that I could do. And I told with that, like, did I do the right thing? But it was proven later, that was momentary. It was more important that she knew. It was more important that I continued that pattern of being open and honest. And I don't have trouble with her coming to me, telling me stuff. If she doesn't tell me something, my requirement is not for her to tell me everything. My requirement is for her to have people around her who are trustworthy, who I feel comfortable with. And at this point, she's developed enough of a discernment to do the same thing. As long as she can tell her Aunt Teresa or her cousin Shafron or, her Aunt May or some mother at the church, or, as long as she's got good people around her, she doesn't have to tell me everything. I don't have to know everything about everything. And so just communicating those things in various ways, being an open book, spending a lot of time, conversational time, I think it made all the difference in the world. If I had been the type of parent to where she asked me something, you don't need to know about that, you're a child. Or, that's grown folk stuff. Mm-hmm. Or, I don't have time for that. Do what I told you to do. And things would have been totally different. Totally different. But God knew the personalities to put together. And he knew she needed what she got from her mom during the time that she was alive and with her. And now, evidently, she needs more of me. So, I just let him do what he does. And I'm grateful. God.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, with that being said, I want to take a pause for the cause. We want to thank our sponsor once again, preachandplay.com, your premier resource for musicians training, building your media ministry, or even building your ministers. So if you have any needs in that area, visit preachandplay.com or speak with our illustrious panelist, Casper Corey. All right, let's get back to our talk about fatherhood. So we briefly kind of touched on something about how the way we were raised impacts our parenting. I want to come to you, Casper. How did your father impact the way you parent?
Let the church adjourn. No. Many of you guys know I have a saying. One of my sayings is the man got to make the coffee. I believe wholeheartedly that God delegated and designed the man, the male, to do a specific role. And with all my father's failures, I did see a hard work ethic.
I have a.
Okay. Yeah. My dad has a hard work ethic. So, watching my dad and my mom work so hard, I've never been afraid of work. That translated into my sports, into my career, and even with my daughter. So I believe that, I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to give her everything that I have. So if I can say that's one thing, because my dad worked so much, I didn't have the support at the games. I didn't have the support at my events. So, that void helped me to understand I don't want her to feel that way. And so me and my daughter, we recently had a conversation basically where she kind of wants me to back off. I tell her I love her too much. I hug and kiss her too much. And it hurts because, dude, I prayed for you. You didn't pray for me. You're like, what you talking about? You know what I'm saying? It's like buying a car and then the car complaining because I'm driving it. Dude, I bought you. So, but it comes from a place where I didn't have that. And so that's one way how my childhood and that my father's parenting specifically influenced how I parent my daughter. Those are probably two of the main ways I can say.
Okay. Uncle Jay, what about you? Uh-oh.
Can't hear him.
Okay. I'm learning this Zoomerang thing. I'm the media director and I'm messing up Zoom.
Hey. You're not gonna tell nobody.
Shh.
Okay, that's why you got team.
That's it.
That's why you got to no. But ask the question again, Shafran.
How did your father impact the way you parent?
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm eating.
All right, I got good and bad on this. I got good and bad on this.
Very good.
Like earlier, I said that mom and dad had very different parenting styles, and so I preferred moms to dad. So he gave me a contrast because I felt like he was very much a provider. He was even though he wasn't there at the functions and stuff, dad was there. I mean, dad was home every night. Dad, we worked in the store. We were around dad, so it wasn't like he was an absent father in any way, shape, or form. I think that presence really spoke to me on probably a subconscious level. Definitely the work ethic. I think is a fundamental part of who I am and how I try to communicate to Alyssa, the importance of those things. I think that that I perceived Dad, and he was, as a good man. And that has been my compass for a while, is, of course, to be a godly man, but to be a good man, one who would be well spoken of. And so I wrote something a while back after he passed about every year that passes since he's been gone, I see more and more of myself in him, and I feel like I know him and understand him more and more. I understand maybe some of the decisions or some of the patterns of thinking, some of the behaviors. I just understand him more because I see the situationally encountering certain things. And while when I was a child or much younger and didn't have to deal with those things, didn't have to face those issues, it was foreign to me, and it was all black and white. Oh, you should do this, or you can do this, or I don't know why you're doing this, or whatever. But when you encounter the situation for yourself and you have to figure it out and make decisions and all of that stuff, it becomes really more relatable. Oh, I can see how you would struggle with, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I move forward? Do I move back? Do I stay still? All of those things, and every decision ain't gonna be right. So I guess Dad has influenced me just by being his child and having his DNA. I mean, I look like the man. Aside from the color, I got the chin I see myself in my father. I'm not ashamed that I see myself in my father. And he very much influences me. And therefore he influences my parenting. And hopefully I'm able to take more of the good parts than the bad parts and pass that on.
Well, we got a unique opportunity here. So, Uncle Jay, you explained how Granddaddy impacted your parenting. Mom, what about you? We've got a son's perspective. What is yours as his only daughter?
Well, of course, I was a daddy's girl. And so the work ethic part, of course, is we probably all four of us can concur because we all had to work. And but that was a good thing. And then there, I said there was three things Daddy always said we had to do: go to church, go to work, and go to school. There was no options. There was no debates. You're going to do those. And of course, I'm sure at some point back, like why we fought it, but now, and I think as a parent, those are three things you had to do. And it was good. So, just like Jeff said, you start to understand by and by. The older you get, the more you see and realize that this thing called life, this thing called parenting, or this, whatever, this thing called adulthood, it's not easy. And some decisions, you had to make, like you said, good or bad, but you work with what you had at that time. So, but impacting me, my parenting, I think is those three fundamental things. And he was firm, like Jeff said. He told you what to do versus mama asked you. So yes, we preferred mom because she had a way, and we still did what she asked us to do. See, some people think that if you ask your children to do something, oh, they're just going to run over you. That's not necessarily true. Children have feelings. You should respect them just as well. And I'm not saying that you just let them have just leeway and all of that, just run amok. But, treat them like you want to be treated, And mom had a way of doing that. And still, we did exactly what she asked us to do. And, but like I said, dad was different. He's going to just say it. And that was pretty much the size of it. And so I think we had more conversations with mom. That's kind of what Jeff, than we did with dad, because of his kind of firmness and he didn't, do a lot of talking, versus mom was the playful, humorous, and so we had that kind of relationship with her versus with dad. Now, the older we get, I think, we all had our individual relationships with dad, which probably was different. But that, didn't, the firmness and the harshness probably didn't foster the communication part that we had with mom. So I vowed as a parent to be very communicative to my children. And sort of like Jeff said, to talk to y'all and, have you all to be able to talk to me and, pretty much anything. And I think to this day, both of you all, you talk to me, with what you want to talk to me about. So I hope that answered your question.
It did. It did. So let's come back to Casper. What would you like mothers to understand about fathers?
My goodness. Woo. How much time we got?
That's loaded, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Let me say this. These conversations are hard because you don't want to bring your personal business in the streets. But there is an example that I want to share. We live in a time where most of the time, if there's some type of a contention between husband, wife, male, female, there's a separation. And most of the time, the child ends up going with the mother, right? But I experienced something. I would see, let's just say a certain person would go to church and then they would say, hey, brother such and such. Hey, sister such and such. But then sometimes there's especially not only when you have your own, but when you are also like a bonus parent. I feel mothers need to understand that there is no, I don't say the word step. Shafron says the word bonus daughter, which is fine. But to me, family is family. And like when I go to church and I say, hey, brother Greg, that's my brother, right? And it would be wrong for me to go to church and say, hey, sister Teresa, but then I'm going to come home and kind of reinforce, well, that's not really your mom, right? Hold up. You don't have any biological ties other than covenant to call a person at church brother and sister. But here I am with you. I'm in covenant with you. I'm taking your child, but you don't see that child as mine. even though we're in covenant. It's hypocritical. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And so I've seen so many times where one parent will kind of alienate the other parent. You know, mothers need to understand, I know that you birthed that child, but many mothers act like, well, mama knows best, or this is my child, as if the mother has some innate responsibility or anointing that is higher than the father. You know, when you got a mother and a father, regardless if you want to deal with them anymore, that child is one with both of you guys, right? And we have to get past this separatist ideology that brings division, that brings individual superiority. Like right now in this country, we're dealing with like white elitism, racial superiority, racial division. Well, man, it's the exact same thing in the home when you're trying to co-parent, right? When you're trying to co-parent, you have a teammate. You may, it is typical Shaq and Kobe. Two great people, but they can't play together, you know? And so I would like mothers and fathers, but I'm speaking to mothers specifically just because of my experience, that man, it took that man to have that baby. It's going to take that man to raise that baby, because like it or not, you can never be a father. I know women who give other women Father's Day cards. No. A child, if the child does not have a father, that child just does not have that perspective, because there is something unique the man brings. And I celebrate women who stand instead for the father and continue to move forward. But we need to understand, if my leg is gone, it's just gone. And I can't celebrate 2-leg day. No, I'm hopping. I'm moving on one leg. So that's one of my biggest frustrations that I see. Like, it's going to be Father's Day. I can't even enjoy my day because there's a woman over there wanting to come up and get some flowers too. You know, I'm mother and the father. No, you mother and the mother. You know, I'm for real. You know, and some people may disagree. That's fine. But you're not the seed originator. You're the seed carrier, right? And allow the seed originator to do his part, and you do yours, because it's very frustrating as a father when society, when the courts, when everything is against me. And we talking about Black Lives Matter, man, father lives matter. You know, if I go to the court, y'all think I'm gonna win? If that mother's child isn't like burning that child, you know, or if I don't got this much evidence, I'm gonna lose regardless, you know. And so, you know, I get kind of passionate when I talk about these because I've had more bad experience, not throwing shade, but I've just had more bad experience with the whole co-parenting thing. So, but her mother is a great mother. She's a great mother, but we don't make a good team. And so I matter too. If you are a man, that woman matters too. If you are a mother, that child's father matters too. And like it or not, you got to get along. And let me tell you one more thing, man. When my daughter, I can't remember what happened, but me and her mom, man, we never liked each other. Well, we did, but not for long. And so, man, we would be at each other's throat, man. And so we had a conversation, and I was like, look, man, our daughter deserves better. We can't be going, especially in front of her. Yeah. And so when my daughter started kindergarten, we went to the store to go school shopping. My daughter came in between me and her mother, grabbed both of our hands, and kind of led us into the store. And for me to never really have that as a child, to be able to see us grin and bear it for the sake of her, you know, that was extremely rewarding. Because again, I longed for those things. But I think, like, generationally, I was born in 78. My parents were born in 44, 45. There was a different sternness back then. There was a different perspective. And so, like, the word communicate, if I hear you correctly, you say your dad talked, but he didn't communicate. Communication's a two-way street. And so, in the relationship between that man and that woman, you have to communicate, which is talk and listen. There's so many things that I want to say. Don't just talk, but you got to communicate. You might not like what I got to say, but doggone it, listen. All right, but I'm going to shut up. You go ahead, Jeff. Talk to me, man. What you think, man?
I don't necessarily have a lot of gripes. I think that there were times in my own experience and then times of observation of others' experiences where sometimes a mother can think or can make it appear as if the father is incompetent, where he is unable to provide care for the child, or he is unable to nurture the child, or he is unable to tend to the child. Even our media and culture portrays that in movies and television shows and commercials. They portray the father as the buffoon, or the father as the one that has to be rescued by the mother. And it's just not the case. I mean, of course, there's some things that she's going to do better than him. There's some things that he's going to do better than her. But it's an equal footing thing. And I don't think it's fair to portray that. I don't think it's fair to feed into that. I think that, I think that some mutual stroking and admiration and admonition is good. I need to tell her, whether we're together or not, how good of a mom she is, how good of a job she's doing, how I appreciate her and for the work that she's putting in. And I feel like she needs to tell me that same thing. I see how hard you're working. I see that you're fostering a good relationship here. I'm proud of you. I'm here for you. Those mutual things. I think we get so wrapped up in our own orbits, in our own atmospheres, that we can only see our part, and everybody outside of our part just doesn't get it. Well, maybe we don't get it, but going back to something that Casper said, if we don't communicate to one another, then yeah, we're not going to get it. But just validating each other's part in the whole thing. A mother is equally as important as a father. And for the best of both worlds, you have both in the picture, bringing that child up and giving them both sides of the coin so that they can be whole and entire, lacking nothing. So, yeah, that's how I feel about it. I mean, we had in the latter days, probably, in Alyssa's teen years and a little bit before that, we had come to a really good place. Me and her mom were very, very good friends, very comfortable around one another. And again, I never spoke ill of her around Alyssa. Didn't have too much to speak ill of, but there were times when I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand why we're not together. Certain things, to get on my nerve. And I'm sure there were times when I do stuff that would get on her nerves, but we really had a great relationship, and that's another thing that I'm very thankful for, that it just turned out that way. But if I had one thing to tell mothers, to bring it all the way back around to your question, I would say that we want to help. We don't want to just bail. We don't want to just, here's a baby and let me go. We want to know. We want to help. We want to be involved. We want to, I say any man worth his salt. I honestly think most men internally have that. Most all men have that desire to be involved. Now, whether or not life has beat some type of something out of them to where they feel like, okay, I'm not going to shoot for it because I'm never going to make it. So let me go the other way and be all hard and I don't care, whatever. But I believe that seed of righteousness, that seed of a good man is in the majority, if not all men that come into this world. It's just how, do they own up to it, or, do they walk in that way? Let me shut up.
I got one more thing I want to add. Hey, to every one mother that's watching, God bless y'all, but child support is more than money. Amen. Child support is more than money. I'm standing on my soapbox. Amen. Child support is child support. Let me support that child with some homework. Let me support that child with some that coach should not teach my child how to shoot a jump shot before than me. Now she got that from me. Let me support my child. Amen. All right. I said that for some man that's watching. Hey man, I'm gonna mute my microphone before I jump on my soapbox. Amen.
One thing I want to speak to on that though, it sounds like the universal thread here is that we as women and those who are mothers could do a better job supporting that relationship. One thing that came to me while they all were talking is that women, we have the benefit of having carried that child. That's an induplicable connection. Like we always talk, me and mom, about how I know the sound of her heart from the inside of her body. A father won't have that privilege, so we have to be mindful and supportive as much as possible of building that relationship and fostering that, because they're starting 9 months, 10 months behind. And also, I always say that kids will know you how you present yourself. I always be trying to get Casper to cook stuff or whatever, or mom always, dad would pick us up from school. Daddy could do whatever, just letting it showed us that dad is more than a financier. Dad is more than a disciplinarian. Daddy can do too. So if we are always doing all of the things, daddies are always doing all of the things. Mama's always doing all of the things, kissing all the boo-boos and putting all the band-aids on. Then dad will always look like the Al Bundy of the situation. So with that being said, let's go to our comments and questions.
Yes, thank you.
Our panelists are crazy. So
yes.
First comment comes from last week's guest panelist, Cameron McCarty. I got a 5-month-old daughter. I'm scared. But he also asked, how do you balance being a provider and protector as a dad with spending time and being sensitive?
I'd say, don't forsake one for the other. Because you might think, okay, I need to be a provider, I need to be a protector, and that's most important. So spending time, we'll spend whatever time we can get, but then she loses the true relationship. Or you can be so focused on spending time and being sensitive that you give a false perception to her, especially as she gets older, of what the world is and what's required of you by living in this world. I've bounced between shielding and trying to provide at all costs to, okay, you're getting close to being an adult and you don't need to think that things just happen or just, you don't have to work for anything or all. There's always a balance. There's always a balance. Don't crucify yourself if you find yourself a little bit lean.
Uncle Jay.
Let me see. Don't know.
JT, are you with me?
let's see.
Yeah, he froze.
He froze.
Mm.
If you can.
Oh man! While we're waiting for him to pop back up, Casper, you jump in.
Yeah, let me jump in. So, one thing let me give an example. Now, first of all, I personally believe that protection and provision, they're not mutually exclusive, or they're kind of the same, but those two things manifest in different ways in different levels. Let's wait for him to jump back in, and hopefully our Facebook box will jump back. He'll probably come back. Everyone, please forgive our box. I'll wait for him to jump back in. Hopefully it comes in easy. But I think provision and protection looks differently at different levels. I'm at a phase where, so earlier when my daughter was, I don't know how old, I had either my knife or my gun on the table, and she come around the corner. It was a knife. She reached for my knife, and I was like, ah! Right? And so at that phase, I'm constantly protecting her from herself at all ways, and so that protection, was on a 12 at that innocent, ignorant phase. Now my daughter is at an age where provision looks differently, because I'm trying to spend more time with my daughter, but she wants to play basketball. She wants to do this, and so she says things like, well, I'll just see you on the weekend because I got this, that, and the other to do. And I'm like, well, man, dude, I want to spend some time with you. I'm at the phase right now where I hear from my daughter when she needs something, not because she wants to talk or chat. She wants her hair done. So provision and protection manifest in different ways. I just think we got to play by ear. We cannot act like there is a single key or there's a single script, but we have to be willing to, here he comes. We have to be willing to play whatever the song is in whatever key that song is. And if the choir director of life has us stuck on the chorus, you got to stay right there in that vein at that level, right? And I think the balance is our ability to play an audible, to call a play on the go, because like we said earlier, there's no manual for fatherhood. But I think the main way we find balance is just by putting forth the effort. Jeff, you're back, man. You want to go ahead and finish your thought, brother? If you can remember, let me unmute you.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I was. What was I saying?
We were talking about balancing it and don't be afraid.
Answering Cameron's question. Yeah. But basically what I was saying was that don't persecute yourself for trying to get that balance right, because you can very easily do that. I mean, it's very, very easy to do that, to think you're not getting anything right, and to look back and say, oh, I didn't spend enough time with her, or, oh, I'm not working enough, we're suffering financially, or, oh, because you're juggling a lot, especially in the co-parenting situation. That adds a different dynamic, because now you don't have that player on your team in the same way that you wanted to, or in the same way, in the same home, on the same page, going the same. You got two different visions, two different directions. So y'all have to find somewhere in the middle too about how you're going to move forward with your child. So it's a lot of places there where you can just stab yourself. But that's where I'm doing the best that I can. And as I know better, I will do better. And Lord, you cover the rest, and that's basically it. And go on and love on that baby, because that's what she's going to remember is Daddy loved on me. Daddy was with me. Daddy listened to me. Daddy, took time with me and played with me. And, that's what she's going to remember. So I would err to the side of time than the finances thing, because you can always have more money, but err on the side of time and
right.
listening and conversation. Even though she can't talk right now, talk to her.
Talk to her.
Yeah, and be with her. So that's my advice.
And you kind of talked about hey, I see a comment, Cameron. That's what I was going to say, that you're never going to provide enough finances ever, and you'll never be provided with enough time if you're going to be a good provider. There's this there's this catch-22 to where if you're a great provider, most of the time you might not be there as much. But one thing that I did, I've taken my daughter on the road with me many times. When I have to drive to somewhere, she's with me. Sometimes that doesn't work out that well in my profession just because of the people that I'm around. But we just gotta get creative, one of my work trips are kind of like a vacation. She gets to sleep in a hotel bed. She gets to see a new city. She gets to do other things, So, my biggest thing, like me and Shafran, not to put our business on the street, but Shafran is kind of obsessive if she can't get everything done. Me, I'm like, I can't get everything done, so man, I'm gonna swing and I'm gonna do everything I can, and I'm gonna go to bed and I'm gonna sleep good, So we have to. There's a prayer people say, God, give me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change,
To change the
things that I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah. Just we gotta walk in wisdom, because the first father is full of wisdom. Amen. And that's God. If we're made in His image, we gotta. I won't say no more. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, before we go on to our anchor scripture, I just want to throw in there, Casper and Jeff happen to be girl dads, but everything we talked about applies to sons too. I know there's a lot of emphasis on what daughters need emotionally, this, that, and the other, but we don't want to leave out our young men in this discussion.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely.
So our anchor verse for today is Proverbs. Actually, before we get there, I want to look at a couple comments. Humor me. So one from Tabitha Beasley: as a mother who is no longer with my children's father, I had to learn to swallow my pride, quiet my fears, and trust God's process for the benefit of my children. As a result, my children are happier and not in the middle of constant tension. I thought that was really good.
That is good. That is good.
And there's also another comment I can't see in the feed. I don't know if you can, Casper, where she is just mentioning the importance of being with God's intended mate for you in terms of some of these scenarios not being at play.
Yes.
Choose wisely, folks. Choose wisely.
Yeah, especially when you're gonna bring a life in this world. Hey, you better choose them not for how they look, but how they're gonna look with the kid, how they're gonna look as a mother, how they're gonna look as a friend. Not just how they're gonna look as a cook or something. Go ahead, babe.
Absolutely. So our anchor scripture for today is Proverbs 17:6.
It's on the screen.
Okay. I'm waiting on it to pop up on my end.
I'll read it. It says, children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers.
Casper, you want to speak to that?
Yes. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers. If we look at the grandparents, children's children are the crown of old men. The Word of God says, something like a wise man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. When you think about a crown, that's your glory. When you think about your crown, that is a sign of accomplishment, of dignity, of a position. And, so children's children are the crown. They are the prize. Many people talk about how I thought I loved my kids, but man, I love my grandkids, right? That's that crown. But it says that, let me put it back up here. And the glory, watch this, and the glory of the children are their fathers. Think about this. Children's children are the crown of old men. But what is the glory of the father? It's the glory of the children. It's how my child functions. If my child is mannerable, that is my glory. If my child is a productive citizen, that is my glory. If my child is walking on the straight and narrow and is equipped to handle life, that's because I, as a father, I have influenced them, and their glory is my crown. My child functioning how they should be is my payday. My daughter being successful, that's my crown. But for an old man, just to have a bunch of kids and just to love them grandkids. So I think that this really speaks to father and our influence and our position to influence and to pour in to our children, because how they function is based off our unction. I'm finna preach. Let me say that again. How they function is based off of our unction. Come on here, y'all. Take the mic, Jeff, while I start preaching. Wow.
I got nothing. I just looked up a New Living Translation. It's fun comparing versions and just seeing how the different interpretations of the different translations are. And New Living Translation says, grandchildren are the crown and glory of the aged. Parents are the pride of their children. And what I saw there was like a reflection. It's a two-way, it's a mirror. That I bounce off of you and you bounce off of me. If I do well, you do well. That kind of thing. I am just as proud and blessed by you and who you are as a person and who you're becoming and have become. And likewise, you are just as proud as me. And when you think about it, when you have a child, that child is a baby, you are responsible for them, totally, and you care for them and you groom them and you teach them and you love on them and show them the ways of the world. And as they grow and you get older, you get closer to this peer thing where, you leave the telling you what to do to the advisory role, to the counselor. And then they become to look at you and it's not a lessening like I'm doing in my head, like one is getting lower than the other, but it's advantage where I become, as the child, proud and glad to cherish my father, to cherish my mother, to look at the life that they've lived, to look at what they've done, to look at what they've accomplished and who they are to me and so many other people. And so I take pride in that, just as they took pride in me. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful cycle. That's one thing about fatherhood, about parenthood, that is probably one of the greatest gifts that God could have given, is the reciprocation. If we do our job, then we have much work in our latter years. If we do our jobs well, then we're going to reap the benefits.
That's right.
That's right. We're going to reap the benefits of care. We're going to reap the benefits of compassion and conversation. We're going to reap the benefits of, just so many different things. It is a beautiful thing. And the other thing, and probably the last thing I'll say on that, is that God showed me a long time ago that my relationship with my daughter, and in anybody watching, your relationship with your child or children, is a direct representation or reflection of the relationship that he has with you. If you can be a good father on this earth, or if evil fathers can give good things to their children, how much more can our Heavenly Father give to us? So, when I have certain interactions with my daughter, and then I'm giving time away from that, I'm like, man, that must be how you look at this, or how you consider me in this situation. How gentle you are with me, how loving you are with me, how understanding, how much space you give me to mess up, or room you give me still within a safe place to do what I'm going to do, and then come on back. It is really a eye-opening and grounding thing to see my love, and then to realize he is magnified upon me.
Wow.
It blows me away when I think.
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome.
Well, I think we've had so many robust nuggets.
Yeah.
In this conversation.
Yes.
And I want to once again thank my panelists. Thank you, Uncle Jay, for joining us, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I want to get to final thoughts. My final thought personally, there's a quote on fatherhood that I saw that I think is poignant, whether you're a father or a mother, but imagine who you want your child to become and be that. That kind of speaks to what both of you all just said about our anchor verse, and that reflection aspect, and also just reminding everybody you have until Sunday to get your ties and your socks and everything for Father's Day. But do take the time. Don't just send a card. Don't just send a fruit basket over there. Call them. If you are privileged to spend some time with your father, go do that. Love on them. Tell them that they are doing a good job. Thank them for what they've done. Make peace with it. They need to hear it as much as we need to hear it. So, to you.
Just, like you said, you took the word out of my mouth, robust discussion, just so many gems today. And, what I took away from what both of you all were saying is that it's kind of like my mantra, do your best, let God do the rest. And don't beat yourself up, and just, be the best father you can be. And God will handle the rest of it. So it's good.
Should I even justify that comment?
No, you should not.
Okay.
Final thoughts.
I'll let you go first,
Just a privilege to be in a discussion about these types of issues. Some positive things in light of just where we are. Where we are as a nation, as a world, where we are as a people, reminding ourselves that there are good things, that there are things worthy of praise, things worthy of honor, things worthy of good report. The Bible says to think on these things. So while we want to be realistic about what's going on, and we want to address issues, we want to dwell on the good things. We want to let God refresh us and renew us. And as fathers, my prayer is that we would be encouraged. We would be encouraged to go farther. We would be encouraged to continue to take steps forward, knowing that God will order those steps that we take. He will direct those steps. He will shine light on our path. It's our job to keep moving forward. We won't always feel like we're getting it right. And we might not be getting it right, but that's not the point. The point is to continue to move forward, following after him the best that we can, and doing the best job that we can in loving our children. So I encourage you today to do that.
Wonderful.
I would just say in closing that out of all the things that God has created, everything expresses some attribute of him, but a father is one of the main symbolisms, picture that the Word of God references from Genesis to Revelation, and it really shows our importance. So I'd like to reiterate the fact that God himself said that fathers are important. There are people who have been burnt, have been abused by, as my sister said, by not choosing the right man. Now they don't think no man is good. No, fatherhood is good in its intention, and people pervert everything. So don't lose faith in fatherhood, but understand that fatherhood is directly connected to who God is, and a good father signifies that. Recently, I've had to come face to face with my own feelings of frustration. How, I'm going through a phase where I hear from my daughter when she wants something. It's frustrating and it's insulting. But in prayer, God said, now you know how I feel. How many times do you pray to me? You ask, give me, but you don't spend time to me in prayer. You prioritize everything else over spending time with me, and you're hurt because your daughter is prioritizing basketball. Now you're getting a taste of your own medicine. So fatherhood, in every regard, the amount of space that I have, the amount of that I have to just kind of let go. And if Jeff said, let her do what she does, let her, I kind of have to step back and watch from afar and be looking in the distance, waiting for her to come, like Luke 15. So fatherhood is awesome to every woman. If your children don't have a father, they're missing something. They don't, a man doesn't have to be the biological father to be a father figure, to have that positive male, that yin to the yang, that opposite perspective, so that they can have that other voice. Get in a good church, choose a good man, not just a fine one. School teachers, police officers, pastors, there's all type of good men that can help fill that void. So I would pray for it and seek it. And motherhood is great too. I think we already understand that, but many people, like Jeff said, it frustrates me to see the Homer Simpsons, the Al Bundys, it's like men are supposed to be stupid. And it's like, bro, God is not stupid. No, that is not a picture of fatherhood. And so fatherhood needs to be revered. And I need to do a better job of reaching out to my father, because we don't have a relationship. We don't communicate, but I'm going to make it my business while I have him to reach out to him, because he gave me what he had, good or bad.
What he had.
He gave me what he's had, good or bad, and that's what we need to accept rather than kicking rocks and complaining. People give you what they got. Say thank you graciously and keep moving, because when our father and mother forsake us, the Lord will bring us up. So God got our back, amen. And just know that fatherhood is great, because God chose fatherhood. It's not a man-made idea. It is a God-ordained institution. God created it, and let's honor that, please. Because it's not easy being the tough guy, because where does the man bleed? Where do we hurt? We a punk if we hurt. So yeah. So honor fatherhood. I'm done. We're way over time. Go ahead, baby.
Yes. So with that being said, I do want to thank everybody once again. We'll be doing another sidebar session or a presentation of some sort 2 weeks from now. And we'll be continuing to do this on and on. Also on my other channel, The Maverick, we will be doing another study with me. So next week, June 22nd through the 26th, I will be walking us through the devotional More Than Pretty from Erica Campbell of Mary fame. So we'll be doing that next week. I hope to see some of you there. There's details on the Maverick Facebook page. Also, again, if you're not already following us, follow us on Facebook at Sweet Tea Gems. You may also look us up on YouTube at Sweet Tea Jams for replays of Sidebar Sessions and other content that we're cooking up for you. And follow us on Instagram and Pinterest as well. So thank you all so much for coming. This has been a very, very full discussion about a very, very important topic. So, fathers out there, I hope you've been encouraged. Mothers and others, I hope that you've learned and walked away with more about what it's like to be a father. So, go encourage the fathers in your life today. See you later.